I'd like to welcome you all to the April 2017 East Central Independent School District Board of Trustees meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Ms. Barrientos, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Del Brazil. Present. Victor Garza. John Massengill. James Mulkey. Here. Monique Presses. Steve Bryant.
Here.
Mr. President, we have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. We're a little light up here tonight, but there's a reason for everybody being gone. And the one reason I'd like to share with everybody is that Ms. Presses is enjoying the birth of her first grandchild. So if you know Mo, you know that she's going to be pinching baby for a while. So anyway, we'll leave that at that, but it's a great evening for them. Moving on to item 2, prayer and the pledge. Mr. Toscano, please.
Ms. Wurzbach, our principal from Pecan Valley Elementary.
Hello, good evening, President Bryant, Mr. Toscano, and members of the board. I would like to introduce to you, on behalf of Pecan Valley, our student, Lexi McBride, who will be doing the prayer today. And our prayer is written by Mr. Shove, a teacher with us, and our students who will be doing the pledge today are Sophia, Gabriella, and Olivia Moreno.
Please bow your heads. Jesus, we want to thank you and praise you for all your blessings upon our lives. Thank you for the life that you have given us and the opportunity to have a blessed life through you. I ask you, bless this meeting tonight. Help our school board and central office make wise decisions that will help the East Central community. Please bless all the staff of East Central ISD so that they may educate students in a manner that is pleasing to you. Please bless the families of East Central community that they may benefit from your love and care. Let all that we do reflect your character and honor you. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Please stand. In the middle. Do you want me to do it? Okay, I'll do it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Prometo lealtad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa una nación ante Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos.
Y'all can sit. It's like, this is the best ever, the power. I'm Maureen Reed. I'm the fine arts teacher at Pecan Valley, and we are going to have mostly pre-K from Ms. Daggett's class perform a very short piece for you. We have Ms. Moreno stepping in as the mama pig because we had a sudden cancellation. And if you'll give us like 2 minutes to get set up, we will be ready. Could I have the other people who are supposed to receive gifts stand up so the children know who to bring them to? You get one. I made it. I made it. You get it. Yes, you do. And I would like to mention that my third graders drew the lion on the product that you're receiving.
Oh, goodness.
Go give it to somebody up there. And I leave my gift. Go ahead and take it out. Look at them. I'm inordinately proud of them. Look at it. Look at it. Look at it. Oh, look at it. Oh, look at it. Okay, so I need to thank my pigs, Araceli Conchola, Emma Martinez, and Colby McFarland, my wolf, Alejandro Decker, my guitar players, Houston Goodpastor, sorry, and that was Gabriella and Olivia Moreno, and my mama pig, Sophia Moreno, and Lexi for practicing so very hard on her poem. And if I could have all of the parents of this children go ahead and stand up so we can acknowledge the work you put in, the time you put in. Thank you.
And I'd like to give a big round of applause to Miss Reed, who has coordinated this whole thing. So thank you, Miss Reed. And thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It appears that Pecan Valley is in exceptionally good hands. What a wonderful group of kids. And, you know, hello, America. We've got talent. Wow, that was amazing. Thank you very much for that. It's a great opening. We'll move on to our awards and recognitions.
Ms. Colas?
Good evening, Mr. Bryant, Mr. Toscano, members of the audience. If we could have Isaac Knotts come up, we're going to introduce him to y'all and talk a little bit about this fine young man. First of all, to offer a little bit of context, East Central High School has partnered with Alamo Academies for several years to provide our students the opportunity to be part of an industry-driven higher education program of studies that focuses on workforce development with the schools to career pipeline. Students who participate in Alamo Academies enter higher education or high-wage careers in aerospace, manufacturing, information technology, and health occupations. Proudly, Isaac Knotts, a senior from East Central High School, has attended the Information and Technology Security Academies for the last 2 years. This year, Isaac proudly represented ITSA and ECISD as the team captain for the Cyber Patriot team. Cyber Patriot is a national youth cyber defense competition with over 2,600 teams competing across the country, with winning teams advancing to their region, state, and eventually the national cybersecurity competition. The top 10 teams in the nation earn an all-expense-paid trip to Baltimore, Maryland for the national finals competition where they can earn national recognition and scholarships. Isaac Knotts led his team to the state championship, which was the Cyber Patriot Cup, and subsequently guided his team in the national finals where they competed on April 2nd through the 5th, and the results are still pending. So when he gets his giant trophy, we're gonna bring him back and take lots of pictures of him with it. Isaac has been a student in East Central ISD since kindergarten, attending Highland Forest, Salado, and Heritage. He's the son of Christine and Jacob Valdez. Isaac plans on attending Texas A&M San Antonio and majoring in cybersecurity. As a result of his success in Cyber Patriot, he's been given numerous scholarship offers and a 4-year internship opportunity with Booz Allen Cybersecurity Consulting Firm while he's in college. Great job, Isaac. ECISD is proud of you. Mrs. Valdez, will you please stand and be recognized? Here's Mom with him tonight. Congratulations to Isaac, and thank y'all for coming out tonight.
All right, we're going to take a short break right now. We have one person who signed up to speak. Let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll take a break. In just a minute, we'll take a break and let those of you who need to go home and do homework do it, or grade homework, or whatever that is. So give us one moment. Hi, Amber Rios has signed up to speak this evening. Ms. Rios, please.
Good evening, board members and community members. My name is Amber Rios. I am a health educator for UT Teen Health out of the UT Health San Antonio, formerly known as UT Health Science Center. Just a little bit about us. We are a teen pregnancy prevention program that works with different school districts, including East Central, and community-based organizations to implement evidence-based programs. And so we just wanted to thank you for allowing us to be in your district most recently, and wanting to help us with teen health and wellness. So we just wanted to present you with our 2017 Fiesta Medal that was created by one of our Youth Leadership Council members. He was really excited that he won. We do it every year. We had a few entries from East Central High School as well, so we were really excited. So we just wanted to present you with that.
Thank you, ma'am. Oh, that's kind of blinged up. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to take a 10-minute break right now and let those of you who need to go home and do homework or grade homework or whatever that might be, and then we'll reconvene and conduct our business for the evening. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on with our agenda now.
Per chief, he wants to get out here by 7. NFL schedule comes out, so chop chop. Even though we know the Giants already are gonna beat the Cowgirls first game.
Here we go.
All right, we're going to start back up again, and our next agenda item is superintendent report, personnel reports.
Trustees, in your electronic packet, a couple of things I want to point out. Our traditional monthly staffing report is on page 9. Again, this time of year, not very much activity. But in addition to that, there's a document there for your review this month regarding staff recommendations for possible multi-year and one-year contracts. In addition to that, at every campus, we have a list of teachers that we're recommending for teacher contracts. Again, those are one-year contracts. What I'd like for you to do, if you would, is just review those, particularly the positions themselves, and if you have any questions or feedback regarding multi-year versus single-year recommendations, send that my way. We'll bring this to you at a later date for approval.
All right. So if you have any questions about that, again, get with Mr. Toscano, please. Item B, ECPD Department Report.
Sir, trustees, it's the time of year where our police department gives us an update on progress for the year. As well as following that, Chief will give his annual racial profiling report. So he has two reports for us this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Toscano. Board President, board members, thank you. On our board update, I'm going to start it off with our mission statement. This mission statement, the department was formed in 1991, and this has been our mission statement ever since. And I guarantee you that the men and women of this police department do their best to uphold that mission on our campuses and our community, and I'm very proud of all of them for accomplishing that every school year. Good. Okay, on our goals for this school 16-17 school year, our goal number 1 was to enhance students' education awareness to the negative effects of alcohol, drugs, and tobacco by providing classes. Well, our update right now is all but one campus has been provided with the drug, alcohol, and tobacco classes. And I brought Corporal Moda just to spend a quick few seconds to give you an overview of what the curriculum is for those classes.
Hello, everybody. I'm sure everybody knows Corporal Mora over here. I created I used to teach DARE, and created a PowerPoint. That DARE only really targeted just for 5th grade. And like Chief said, it's alcohol, tobacco, but I also added prescription drugs and also over-the-counter drugs. Good, bad, and the PowerPoint makes these children. And again, when I say children, we're teaching 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Those are the ones that are actually around this stuff. They have numerous questions. And when I started doing this, I found that more than half of these kids, and I'm talking about 5th grade, didn't know the difference between marijuana and tobacco. So, and I just wanted to teach them and show them the facts versus cousin or somebody, a friend of theirs, giving them the negative facts on that. So I just want to give them actual facts, and I also explain to them our policy for prescription drugs and over-the-counter drugs. You know, they're not supposed to be bringing anything like that, and that's you know, and I find that it's really helping out. And these kids, they really interact well with the PowerPoint that I created for them. So. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Roy. Our second goal was to contribute to district goals of preparing college and career ready students by participating in career and health fairs. We have already participated in 3 district events on that goal. As everybody's well aware, the health fair was postponed to May 20, and that's going to be the last event that we had scheduled for this school year. On our goal number 3 on the camera project and replacement schedule, we are 100% complete on the projection we did approximately 3 years ago. And by next fiscal year, we're gonna start on our some replacement and some updating our servers to accomplish the cameras working at 100% at all times. And then our goal for having also at 100% of home games, well, that's without question. I'm sure every event that we have here district-wide, you will see an East Central officer, which we do. Our goal 5, the 100% participation district surveys, we're 100% on that too. And our goal 6, projection of 7% of the budget back to the fund balance. I'm talking to our chief financial officer. We're on track for that. On our scoreboard. We have projected to make a total of 550 plus patrol buys and contacts every week at all our campuses and facilities. As of this date, the last numbers I got as of Tuesday, we were doing 830 a week contacts. So we're past 100% attendance on that. And I just want to reinforce something on this goal. We've been doing this since 1991. That's our main purpose for here being in the district, is to provide the safety and security of our campuses. And one way to be the most crime prevention district is to be proactive to the crimes instead of being reactive. So the reason that I'm bringing this up is I was taught how to document it now. So this is something that we've been doing since 1991. It's not something that we just started doing, okay? And our customer survey data, the officers that had contact was courteous. We're 90% on that. The officers I had contact was helpful, 93.6, and the response time for assistance was acceptable at 96.30. So we kept in the 90s. Our next level of work is, I'm anticipating our legislation to pass a statewide texting and cell phone usage, not just for the city ordinance. So we're gonna start enforcing more on our school zones. Not that we're not doing it, but we're gonna provide more coverage when time will allow us. And this includes our bus routes, following some of these buses for passing the school buses while loading and unloading. We're gonna work with technology, as I said, to improve existing camera servers this next fiscal year. And also, myself and Ms. Coles are gonna access the emergency management plan and then address any areas for improvement or additions. And one more thing is, I'm gonna look at it, coming up with a proposal to tighten up the security and safety at our central office. And that would include cameras, access control, and whatever other recommendations we have. And that's the end of it. Any questions? I'll entertain any questions. Did y'all like the medals?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for
Be
the
nice.
Chief, let me ask you one question, Chief. At our middle school track meets at the stadium, do we have officers there all the time?
Yes, sir, all the time.
I just want to thank you. Anytime I've ever needed your help, you've never hesitated. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. That's what we're here for,
Even though
miss.
you're a Cowgirls fan, I still respect you.
And I'll still be there 100% for you anytime you need
No,
it.
but thank you. Seriously.
Yes, ma'am.
I appreciate
It's
it.
our pleasure and our honor. We got a good group of guys and girls that dedicate 100% of their time into this district, and majority of them are homegrown. As I've brought some people up here before y'all, when we swear them in, I started that program when I became chief, so you would see what kind of quality of people we're bringing into this district to serve our students. And I'm gonna continue that until I'm not here no more.
I want to thank you for everything that you do. You request things about, congestion, transportation, and even with the incident with those stray dogs, I want to appreciate you getting on that right away. And thank you so much, because that was a concern that was brought to me, some of the parents, about those stray dogs around that lakeside area.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mulkey. Thank you, and again, that's what we're here for.
Okay. Thanks, Chief.
Okay, I got one more report, and I need technology, so. Trustees, the next presentation is going to be the department's 2016 racial profiling report. As some of you are aware, this is mandated by state legislation that occurred about 15 years ago. We would have to keep track of all contacts that the officers make out in the public. Now, you see that tier 1, there is 2 tiers on this report. Tier 1 is an exemption to the law enforcement agency that provides audio and video equipment on their patrol cars or on their body. So we only have to keep those videos for 90 days, and we're kind of exempt from some of the other requirements that agencies that are not equipped with that kind of equipment have to do. Yes, ma'am. As a matter of fact, I didn't want to be rude. I took mine off. Yes. All the officers are equipped with body cameras. All my patrol cars have cameras in the vehicles, and they have been very successful reducing complaints and documenting events when we get complaints from the parents. For this year, let me see. This goes from January to December. We had a total of 98 stops of motor vehicles, and then African 10, Caucasians 31, Hispanic 57. None of those were known to the officer, which means he did not stop them because they were Hispanic or Caucasian. The race was learned at the time of the stop. We had one search that was conducted due to the traffic stop, and I believe that was one of the officers stopped a car speeding, I believe it was Pecan Valley area, and as soon as he approached the car, he got strong smell of marijuana, and we made an arrest for that. And was the search consented? Yes, the guy consented to the search. So that's it for our numbers for the state. Oh, and we have not had any racial profiling complaints in 15 years. I'll entertain any questions.
Any questions? I think we're good, Chief.
Okay, thank y'all very much. Thank you.
All right. We're moving on to upcoming events.
Trustees, if we can together take a quick look at your calendar. April and May, a couple of things that I'd like to point out. You'll notice that next Monday, the summer SLI, TASB SLI training, which is June 15th to 17th at the Marriott River Center. Registration's going to open Monday, so if you're interested in going, get with Margaret, and she'll get you taken care of. Also in your packet, there's a handout, a lot of wording, but refers to an event at the Whitty Museum. It's an invitation. It's for you guys. We have a group of students that are going to be recognized at the Whitty Museum, along with Councilman Villagran and the YMCA of San Antonio and the National Parks Conservation Association. You may have seen in this edition of the Wilson County News, we had a 2-page spread in there about some service learning projects that our high school and junior high students have been undertaking in the past year. And so this is an event that's going to be recognizing that. The information is in the handout as far as time and date. We also, on the 28th, have a school holiday next Friday for the Battle of Flowers. In May, on May 1st, important date, Mr. McKay at the high school and his staff have sent out correspondence to students and their families regarding some changes because we'll be officially breaking ground and starting construction on the Performing Arts Center at the high school. And so construction crews will be mobilized, and in your packet is a letter that Mr. McKay actually sent out, as well as a map of the high school with the identifying where the laydown areas are going to be for construction, parking lots that'll be closed, and then the rerouting for drop-off and pickup, which will be in the Gym 3 area, which is very similar to what we did when we renovated the high school back in 2008. And so that information is out to the community. I believe Mr. McKay and his staff will be sending out a parent link as well as we get closer to that date as a reminder. But in case you have any questions out in the community, I wanted you to be aware of that. Moving forward to May 10th, that's our annual Superintendent Student of the Month reception at Heritage Middle School in the cafeteria at 6 p.m. And then the following week of the 15th, this is the time of year where we have banquet season and awards ceremonies. And so some of the big ones that we have annually at the high school involve the Academic Achievement Awards on the 15th. And just kind of a little context about that, you know, there was once upon a time in ECISD when our graduating classes were much smaller than they were now, where every student who was graduating got all of the recognitions that they had were announced. But because of time constraints and the size of our group, we can't do that at graduation. So this is one of the events where all students who receive academic recognitions are formally recognized. So it's a pretty big event at the high school annually. In addition to that, we have our Ag Banquet, always a well-attended event. Another opportunity for you to be present in the community if it works in your schedule. That's at 6:30 in the cafeteria at the high school. We have our Spring Athletic Sports Banquet on the 17th in the cafeteria. And then our next regularly scheduled board meeting will be on the 18th. As Chief mentioned, the Hornets for Health Fair did get rescheduled due to weather, and it is on May 20th on Saturday. Later that evening, we'll have a Relay for Life that will be hosted in our community. So big day on Saturday, a lot of things going on at the high school involving the community. And then lastly, on the 29th, we have a Memorial Day holiday. Be happy to answer any questions about any of that information if you have any.
Mr. T, I just want, the district track meet, is it going on this week?
The area track meet is going on tonight, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have some updates, actually, that are being texted to me during this meeting, and after the meeting, I'll let you know how our kids have done.
Thanks a lot.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Moving on to our action agenda, we have item A, resolution supporting a community-based accountability system.
Trustees, if you'll recall from our goal-setting workshop during our special meeting a few weeks back, we talked about the desire to focus on developing an accountability system that reflected what our community wanted in terms and expected in terms of outcomes for students. That this was going to be a process that took our work around the profile of a graduate to the next level, where we really determine what are the metrics that the community believes are worth tracking and reporting back. That is not just heavily, focused on state testing. That state testing would obviously be a part of that, but a small part of a bigger picture that reflected what the community wanted. In addition to that, we talked about developing our local accountability, community-based accountability system. But then also we wanted to partner at the state level with what's the acronym would be TPAC, the Texas Performance Assessment Consortium, where we would work along with other districts across the state to develop a more appropriate state accountability system, with the idea that in the next legislative session, we would be able to stand before the legislature and say, we're not just complaining about the current system, but we're proposing something that we think would enrich it. And so we want to be a big player in that, along with many of our colleagues across the state. And so both of those will be informing one another over the next 3 years. And so while the resolution is not required to be approved by the board, we felt that it would be encouraging to staff to make a public statement in saying that the board really wants to support moving forward in this work. So that's what the resolution is reflecting. So I'll be happy to answer any further questions about that.
Anybody have any questions, any comments? We've been talking.
I didn't have any questions. When I read that, and of course it wasn't new to me, I know you've been working on it, I was never so proud as to see something in writing that really reflects what we all feel. And in addition to that, looking at the paper today, and I already mentioned to Ashley how proud I was of how she had comments in the paper that represented all of us exceptionally well. And so I'm this, I think the more that we know and understand, the better that we can help others to understand. So thank you for the extra time I know that
Ma'am.
you put into this.
Yes, ma'am.
So I think it's important for those of you who are here tonight to take back to your staff, once again, that we want to recognize that the state has accountability standards. They are not the end game. We want our children educated like the community wants them educated. And so we've talked about this before as a group. And as we move forward with our public hearings on state assessments, we're going to spend about that much time on them. And then we're going to go and talk about what the community expects and how we're meeting those needs. So this is one step. It's a formal step where we've joined the rest of the folks in the state, but we're going to take our own step. And we're going to find out what's important to our community so that we can report that back to the community. Not going to ignore the state. Well, not too much. But I think, again, it's important for you to take this back to your teachers and your staff and to relieve them of some of that anxiety that comes naturally to them with all of this information being reported and the pressure that they put on themselves to allow maybe some of that to be relieved a little bit and let them go about their business and be relaxed. And our kids not have to worry, oh my gosh, you know, today's test day. It's not the end of the world. And it's important to understand that. So I also applaud staff for bringing this to us. So, all right.
So does the state take into account the comments that are made? Or do they just take out one year, not the other? 'Cause it doesn't seem like they've really taken it into consideration.
So in this session, there's been quite a bit of discussion during the session, and there has been some recommended amendments to, for example, the A through F that we talked about earlier in this year. And we knew that it was going to be very different by the time the real thing was rolled out, which would increasingly make that whole thing more confusing. But there has been a lot of activity around it. In its current framework, it's not going away. But I guess the best way to put it is it seems like there's a little bit of interest by the commissioner and legislatures to make the best of what I think everybody's realizing isn't a really good situation in terms of the accountability and assessment system, driving improvement for education across the state of Texas. And so it's encouraging, but it's not a fix. We think that this kind of work going forward is our best option for really creating something more meaningful locally, which is what we want to do. Okay.
All right. So, the chair will entertain a motion to accept the resolution supporting a community-based accountability system as presented. Have a motion by Ms. Brazil. Is there a second? We have a second by Ms. Barrientos. Any questions? If not, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item B, pre-K for SA agreement.
Mr. President, trustees, again, going back to our conversation around this topic at our goal-setting workshop, we spent a lot of time really talking about our desire to continue to focus on early childhood education as we have for so long in this community. And in light of our impending additions of early childhood centers to all of our elementary schools, we really felt like this was a great opportunity for us to dig deep and to make sure that between now and then, we're really, really confident in the quality of our early childhood programming and that we're really stepping out there and being able to sell to the community or offer to the community the very best that exists for early childhood education. In an effort to do that, in studying that, our curriculum team spent a little time with pre-K for SA, and the fact that they concentrate on early childhood education and they've been at work for 4 or 5 years and have really refined what they've been doing. They've had some turnover in leadership, and where in the past we felt like there wasn't really a lot of alignment with what we were doing, that in recent years there's been an increasing degree of alignment. We also realize that training and development of our teachers is a really critical piece to improving quality and scaling it in every one of our early childhood centers. The ability, by way of a partnership, to capitalize on some of those resources for training and development is of interest to us. We also know that we're serving at Pre-K for SA. We're not, Pre-K for SA is consistently over the last 3 years serving between roughly 85 students on average. Our intention in the partnership is not necessarily to increase the number of students served, but by partnership being able to capitalize on the professional development, as I mentioned, but also then to recoup some of the ADA that neither one of us are receiving. And it would generate some revenue that we'd be able to then put back into early childhood programming here. In the end, our desire is not necessarily to assimilate completely what Pre-K for SA does, but like our community-based accountability system, we want to study it, work together, and come up with what fits our community best. And so in reviewing the MOU, we've had staff engaged since the goal-setting workshop. On the business and operation end, we've really dissected the MOU and identified a few areas where we really felt like we wanted them to be aware of our position, the board's position. And so a couple of things I wanted to point out that we've spent some time discussing, one of which is in section 3, page 52 in your electronic packet, there's some provisions around how the ADA how that works. So the students would enroll obviously with us.
Yes.
They would be served at Pre-K for SA. We would pay them $3,200 per student, but the remaining, I believe, $400, Judy, Taffy, is it $400 is approximately per student comes back to us. And that's the funds that, in part, I'm speaking about. As far as data was another piece in section 6. There's some language there about our requirements of providing data at their discretion and tracking the students' progress through 3rd grade. We said that while we want to be partners and we want to work together to determine the impact of our work together, we're not going to be at the mercy of their request for data. And what we mutually agreed upon was that the interest of the data for the city as well as for us was to really study the impact of different pre-K arrangements. Half day, full day, extended day, and see what seems to have the impact on students the most. And their interest with the data is not to identify school districts for the purposes of comparison to their program. So all of the school districts who are partners, in addition to us, are not interested in moving forward if we're talking about competing with one another. We want to partner with the interest of scaling great early childhood programming across the city, and of course here locally, that's our primary interest. And so there's a letter there from their executive director, Dr. Sarah Beret, who is clarifying that is their intention, and that intention we're good with. The language in the MOU verbatim is not what we're good with. And so for legal reasons, given that all the other districts who are partners have that same MOU language, they couldn't change it. But with her letter of clarification, that's going to be our agreement with the data, is that we're going to work together to identify impact and programming arrangements to inform our work going forward, but that's it. And then lastly, we discussed last time in our goal-setting workshop, what if we're not pleased? Or what if the city doesn't, pass the resolution going forward to continue with the 1/8 cent sales tax? What then? And so what would be our ability to exit? And so in the MOU in section 8, it talks about withdrawing. And so if at any point we feel like the benefit is no longer mutual, it's no longer meeting our needs, at any point, at any given cycle, annually, so long as it's by March 1st of the given year, we could request to exit the MOU. So there's an ability to exit on an annual basis if it's not fulfilling what we expected. Staff is very optimistic. We think that it'll be a really great partnership for R&D going forward, as well as give us access to city grants, some city grant funding in this first cycle, about $200,000 to further enrich our training and development and programming for early childhood. And then every year that grant funding obviously the allocations would change, but we would be eligible as a partner. So we've got curriculum staff here as well. If you guys have any questions at this time, I'd be happy to try and answer those, or we've got staff from the curriculum team as well as our CFO, Judy, and her team, because we've had a lot of concerns about ADA, tracking the ADA, what impact might that have on staffing, and so we're feeling going forward, we're in a pretty good place, got a pretty good handle on what that's going to entail. And I think we're pretty confident that at least giving this thing a shot is something we think we're ready to do, or ready for you to consider.
Questions? I have a couple of concerns about a couple of sections. In section 2.4.8, it looks like we have some liability for litigation expense if the pre-K for SA has a failure to follow an IEP in the program. There's some areas where they talk about reimbursing us, but this section where we've got some liability when they've got the student, and I don't see anything in here where we're able to monitor or audit their compliance with the IEP. I know that part of this section is that we have to call the ARD and we have to develop the IEP, but I don't see anything in here where we're able to monitor what they're doing prior to a parent or someone else saying you're not following the IEP. So just maybe some caution there to look at that again and get some clarification on what that really means. And it's for special education and for 504 accommodation. Excuse me. Also, you talked about section 3.2 where we receive the ADA and then we pay them no more than $3,200 a year for each student. But there's also some requirement for them to report to us attendance so that we can incorporate that into the PIMS accountability section. I don't know how difficult that's going to be for us to sit and wait for them to send us the information and us to get it in. It's got to be done in a pretty efficient manner for us to wait for them to send it. To depend on them, because if we misreport, it's our report, it's our students. I know that there's some language in there that says if they do it wrong and there's any penalties, they're going to pay the penalties, but I'm still a little worried about that.
Okay.
I appreciate the reporting, the concern about the reporting on students through the third grade. There's also some language in there that talks about reporting on a complementary group of students who weren't part of pre-K SA and who have been in our program up through the third grade. And so that seems to be something that might be a little cumbersome on our staff, as well as, we got 80 kids over there in that program. Kind of means we got to report on 80 kids who weren't part of pre-K SA so that they can beat their chest and say, oh, we've done a wonderful job. But just a couple of concerns in there. Are we going to have their director's addendum attached to the agreement, or is
Yes,
it
sir.
just something between us and them?
It's my understanding is it's going to be attached to the agreement.
Okay, cool.
And just a couple of points of clarification. So on the reporting.
Yeah.
They've hired the Ray Marshall Center, who we are also partnered with for data collection. And in a recent conversation, they're trying to determine how to create a sample that would give them some indication about impact of half day, full day, sort of thing. And so the language around that is that first of all, principally, there's a difference between a child whose family makes a choice to apply, right, versus one that doesn't make a choice. And so the pool citywide would be to look at students who applied for pre-K for SA and got in, and students who applied and weren't able to get in, but then were served in traditional ISDs. Fortunately, the Ray Marshall Center can generate that data without ISDs having to generate that data. So that was a really big point of contention last month with all the partner ISDs, and that was clarified. So we also felt pretty good about the fact that we wouldn't have to generate that. As far as the ADA, that's actually where we have been most focused through the business office, kind of studying what other districts have done. We're leaning towards possibly its own school ID, and that may be the easiest and most efficient way to track daily ADA. So we're feeling pretty good, like we got a direction. We haven't made any definitive decisions, obviously, but just based on our preliminary findings, that makes the most sense. And for districts who have been doing that, it seems to work the most efficiently. And then as far as the special education in 504, I don't know if we had any comments about that, or if that's something we need to follow up on a little bit.
Okay, I mean, there's, there's awful lot of language in here about who gets to pay for the penalties if the IEP is not followed. So, and they specifically mention special ed and 504 accommodations. So it looks like they've got our kids who fall into those programs. We have to convene the ARD, we have to create the IEP, but then it's their job to implement it. If they don't implement it the way it's supposed to be implemented, we have some liability for that, at least when I read the agreement. So, you know, if they weren't going to serve those kids, I'm not sure why that language is in there to begin with. But we need to have some way to monitor what they're doing before a parent blows up and says, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And we get pulled into something like that. Even if they reimburse us for stuff, those things take an awful lot of time of staff to go to those hearings and those kind of things, and it keeps you away from our kids. So I'm a little, I'd be a little cautious about that. Also, at our work session, there was conversation about the identification of pre-K households throughout the whole district that would help us not only make sure that kids were in a pre-K program if they didn't apply, but that we could also do some recruitment for that.
Yes, sir.
And so that's still a part of this?
Yes, sir.
I didn't see that anywhere in here.
Yeah, so that's, I don't think that's written in necessarily the agreement, but that's a new body of work that they've embarked on. They've hired a consultant to be able to track through hospital records and that sort of thing, where 4-year-olds are across the city of San Antonio. And as a partner district, we would then have access to that information to know where our 4-year-olds are in the district so that we could recruit them into our pre-K programs as well as their pre-K program, if that's something that the family thought matched. Yes, ma'am.
I mean, I love having the kids back in our school, but if we're halfway through the school year and we got a 22-to-1 ratio requirement and we don't have a spot in the pre-K class for a child and they're not going to serve them anymore, then it looks like we're kind of stuck. I don't want to say stuck with that child. We want that child. How do we then serve that child when we're already at capacity and may not have accepted that child to begin with? So there are just some concerns about those kind of things, and it's something that we probably need to look at. So, you know, all the conversation that we've had tonight tells me that for the reason that we're going into this program, it's, you know, it's going to benefit our students. It's gonna benefit our kids and help them build that foundation for the school. So, you know, I appreciate the work that y'all have done on this agreement. Okay. Any other questions?
So are kids gonna be housed with us or over there? Because then why are we spending money to put classrooms in our campuses?
Yeah, so we have an allotment.
So we'll
Yeah.
still have
Oh, yeah.
those rooms filled?
Yeah, yeah. So based on their total capacity and each member school district that belongs to them, you're given an allocation for their chairs. And so there'll never be enough of an allocation for all of our kids to be able to go over there.
Yeah, and so to also clarify, when seats aren't filled, they'll accept students from non-partner districts. And so for us, we've had about 85 students enrolled every year, and we're not a partner. Our intention is to allocate a specific number of seats. Let's just say, for example, we decide 100 is appropriate. We wouldn't have any more students enrolled in pre-K for SA, given 10 or 15 different, than we currently do. So we're not expecting this to impact our enrollment. We'll be monitoring that every year if we enter into a partnership, of course, and continue into a partnership. But what we do believe is that by being able to track where our 4-year-olds are, that we may actually be able to capture the between 100 and 200 that we project are actually out in the community that may or may not be in an early childhood center,
Yeah.
whether ours or somewhere. So we actually anticipate, with the access to pre-K across the geography of our district with our new facilities and the ability to track and the ability to market a really high-performing, outstanding early childhood program, that we're going to see our increased enrollment over time of pre-K student enrollment. Is what we anticipate.
So those kids will be taught the same thing that they're being taught at pre-K?
So our
Or
pre-K,
kids?
so
No, they're not gonna.
not necessarily, yeah, not necessarily. There are some things that in our preliminary visits, we really like about pre-K programming, but we're not going into this thing saying, hey, we're doing everything you're doing and you're gonna dictate to us the curriculum, et cetera. We're gonna study that. We're gonna make decisions about what works perfectly for us. There may be some things that are very similar and some things that may be a little different.
But they'll still be learning the same?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, just making sure.
All developmentally appropriate for preparation for 5-year-old kindergarten. As we currently do.
Yeah, so I mean, there's language in here that says they're gonna follow the TEA requirements for pre-K. Yeah, but it may differ a little bit from our curriculum, because we're doing the pre-K, you know, to follow on with our vertical alignment, within our district. And we would hope that there wouldn't be a big disconnect between those students coming in and the students that we started in moving forward with that, basic skills, you know, those kind of things.
Keep track of those kids though.
Yeah, yeah.
See how they-
So the other piece of this is, and it's not anywhere near the top of the heap, but right now, we have students from East Central in those programs. They had seats that were left open by the member districts, and so they allowed anybody to apply for those. So we have some students from East Central going over there right now. We're not receiving the ADA for those students. We're not having to pay them anything for those students, but we're not receiving the ADA, and those students are not registered as East Central Independent School District students. This will eliminate that, and any student that goes over there would be recognized as an East Central student, have to be reported under our PEIMS, not pre-K for SA's PEIMS, and the ADA would then come to the district. Anything over ADA and what we paid pre-K for SA, that $3,200 a year, stays in the district.
So this year, it would have been about $45,000. It would have stayed with the district, with the number of students that are currently being
Yeah.
served.
So, I mean, it's not the primary reason for
No,
doing this. Just
no.
like the primary reason for encouraging parents to send their kids to school isn't the ADA. It's getting them to school and getting them in front of a teacher. but it is a factor, so, okay. Anything else? All right, you have a recommendation for us, sir?
Yes, sir. I recommend board approval of the pre-K for SA agreement as presented, and we'll be following up to further discuss the considerations that were brought forward this evening.
Okay. You have a recommendation by the superintendent to accept the pre-K for SA agreement as presented. Any questions? Comments? If not, Chair will entertain a motion. We have a motion by Mr. Mulkey. Is there a second? We have a second by Ms. Brazil. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item C, proposals for asphalt projects, Heritage Middle School, Oakcrest Intermediate School, ECHS South Campus, and Transportation Center.
Mr. President, trustees, we have a sequence of business operations items that we'll have Mr. Selby present some detail to the board. The first of which is, as Mr. Bryant mentioned, the asphalt projects at Heritage, Oakcrest, the high school South Campus, and the transportation facility. Mr. Selby?
Mr. Toscano, board members, as indicated, this is proposals that were submitted under competitive seal proposal delivery method as approved by the board earlier in the year for asphalt projects at the schools that were already mentioned, Heritage, Oakcrest, the high school South Campus, and Transportation Center. You can see we had, I believe it was 7 proposals submitted. Out of those, you have a tab sheet that's attached, and we use the evaluation matrix as we do on all of the competitive seal proposal technique or deliveries methods, and out of that appraisal or evaluation done by both East Central staff and CDS Murray Services staff, looking at recommendations and so forth. We're recommending JR site work for the asphalt projects at these campuses at a proposal cost of $583,163. If you recall, the majority of this project is to go back in and do some basic patchwork, seal crack sealing, seal coating, and then restriping. At the transportation facility, there will be some more extensive replacement of some of the asphalt and to some degree some areas between Heritage and Oakcrest and the bus circle at Heritage. But that's the scope of the work. I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have, but would like your consideration of this.
Do you have any questions for Mr. Selby? No? Okay.
Trustees, I recommend board approval of JR site work for the asphalt projects at Heritage Middle School, Oakcrest Intermediate School, High School South Campus, and our Transportation Center at a proposed cost of $583,163.
Have a recommendation from the superintendent on the asphalt projects. Chair will entertain a motion. We have a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a second? We have a second by Ms. Barrientos. Any questions, comments? If not, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Item D, discussion and consideration of architectural design and construction administration services for improvements to East Central ISD Administrative Building and the boardroom.
So trustees, will be doing some work here at the district office. Obviously, this building has settled, needs some leveling, as well as some work on the roofs. You'll notice as you come out of as we come out of our conference room, the eaves have been sagging the last couple of years, and you guys have been giving me a little bit of a hard time about that, which you definitely should. But we are prepared to move forward in that work, and we need to secure some architectural design and construction administration services. Normally for this sort of thing, we wouldn't necessarily have to come to the board. There is a $50,000 threshold before we would need to do that, and we're not certain that it would not exceed that. And so we wanted to bring that to you tonight for approval in the event that those services do reach that threshold. And so we've done work with Pawanka Sturrock Architects in the past on many projects, and we feel very confident that they provide a good value and do quality work. And so that's who we'll be recommending this evening. So formally, I recommend board approval of Pawanka Sturrock Architects to provide architecture, design, construction, administration services for improvements to the East Central ISD Administration Building and Boardroom.
We have a recommendation from the superintendent. Chair will entertain a motion. We have a motion by Ms. Brazil. Is there a second? We have a second by Mr. Mulkey. Any questions? Not, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Item E, discussion and consideration of civil engineering, design, and construction administration services for improvements to FM 1346 and FM 1518.
Trustees, you'll recall during our bond presentations to the St. Hedwig community, we talked about doing a traffic impact analysis to determine what the traffic that would be the result of a new school in the community would have at the intersection. We've gotten the results of that study and subsequently have determined that we need to add some turn lanes and deceleration lanes on both 1346 and 1518. And we also need to make some improvements to the intersection there at 4 Points. And so we've worked with CDS Murray Services, again, on multiple projects in the past, and we feel very confident, again, that they provide a good value for the district and that their work is of the utmost quality. And so formally, trustees, I recommend board approval of the attached proposal from CDS Murray Services for civil engineering, design, and construction administration services for improvements to FM 1346 and 1518, as well as the 4 Points intersection as presented.
The school districts are responsible for that? Can you?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm lost.
Yes, sir. So I may tag Mr. Selby in here, but that is an issue, and you can add to this, Mr. Selby, if you'd like. But you know, we don't pass bonds to fix state highways, state roads, but they're obviously not required by statute to do that. But in good faith, we would like for them to consider that. And at this point, going forward, we can't rely on that. So, Mr. Selby, if you want to talk a little bit more about that.
Ms. Toscano summarized it fairly well. Whenever the district is considered a commercial enterprise, and so whenever we make improvements to our property, if it impacts the flow of traffic or in somehow could be detrimental to the flow of traffic in an area, then whether it's the state, in this case it's state highways, so that's why we're dealing with the state, or if it's in the city limits, it would be the city of San Antonio or wherever, they have ordinances that would require us to make improvements there, so in the area that we would impact. And so as a result of that, both through the traffic impact analysis that was performed by our consultants, and also through meetings with TxDOT, always fun meetings that we have with them, it was determined that it was not only just for the impact of this elementary school, but planning ahead for the middle school, these improvements will allow for a safer, better flow of traffic on those state highways in front of our schools. And so, yes, that's a long way to, mine was a longer answer, but yes, we have to do that.
Much more technical and more impressive. Thank you. Yeah. Short of it is, we are.
And I do have copies of the proposal here if y'all would like those. So.
There's a copy in your packet.
Oh, they got it. Wow. That's very efficient.
Went ahead for the CDS
Yes.
Murray. Yeah,
Okay.
scope of work
We
is in
got
there.
it. All
Yes,
right.
sir. You got that in there, actually. Did a really good job.
I share your pain, James. I remember when we were dealing with Legacy, we were going to purchase the property all the way through to W.W. White Road, and the city said, well, if you do that, you have to put a street in. Oh, and by the way, you got to put a stoplight in at that intersection as well. So we scaled back our purchase of the property there, and we didn't have to put a street in. That was, gosh, that was gonna be $6-8 million to do that between the light and because the street had to be built to their specifications.
And we were gonna have to dedicate that road to the city. It
Yeah.
would become a public road that would have split Salado and Legacy. So we
Yeah.
chose to buy just enough land to give us access to W.W. White, but not large enough property to put a road in.
Okay. Any other questions?
The city wasn't real pleased with that one.
All right. Do we have your recommendation, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We have a recommendation from the superintendent to accept the architectural proposal from CDS Murray Services for civil engineering design. Chair will entertain a motion. We have a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation by Ms. Barrientos. Is there a second? We have a second by Ms. Brazil. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. And item F, construction manager at risk for Salado Intermediate School, Harmony Elementary School, Pecan Valley Elementary School, and Sinclair Elementary School additions and renovations.
Trustees, there's a bid tabulation form in your miscellaneous packet. Mr. Selby will present the detail around that document. But this is speaking to phase 2 of our bond program, our additions and renovations. As you know, we went to the market. Proposals have been received. And again, in the accompanying bid tabulation form, you can see the result of those tabulations. Mr. Selby?
Toscano board members, this is a continuation of the process that we're doing to pull together a very good quality team to help complete the second phase of the bond, 2016 bond. If you recall, we talked about different delivery methods that we use for providing oversight and management of the construction projects for the phase 2, which includes the additions and renovations to Salado Intermediate School, as well as Harmony, Pecan Valley, and Sinclair elementary schools. We chose and you approved the delivery method of a construction manager at risk. We went out on competitive seal proposals for delivery of that service. We received 3 very good proposals, which are attached to on the tab sheet that you have, which included Joris General Contractors, Bartlett Koch General Contractors, and Guido Brothers Construction. All 3 of these are excellent general contractors and have great experience not only in just general contracting but also in the construction manager at risk process. In looking at and evaluating the proposals, we were extremely pleased with the proposal that were presented, and we were extremely pleased with the proposal from Joris General Contractors. We have Gary Joris with us this evening, who's kind enough to come out, and Carlos is from LPA, as you know, and the team did the evaluation on this, and as a result of not only Joris's very competitive pricing, but also the team that they put together for each of those sites of construction. We're going to have superintendents at each site, and they put together a really strong team of superintendents that were highly recommended as we went through and checked references. And so as a result of that, what they will do as far as a general for their work is that they're going to have pre-construction services. So once, if you chose to approve this recommendation, we'll enter into contract with Joris General Contractors, and then they'll begin to get involved with the actual design process with LPA and the school district. And that's part of those services. So for example, those services for pre-construction service were $50,000, and that was low compared to the others. The fee for once they get into the design is completed, and they would then get involved in presenting those plans and specifications to the marketplace and helping accept proposals from subcontractors that would be involved in doing the actual construction on all of this, and then also would help oversee the actual construction and management of that construction as you would see a general contractor do. Services for that were based on fees for overhead and profit and general conditions, and they were low on that as well. Based on the budgeted construction cost on that, the estimated cost for their services are $2,929,596.08. We probably may be off on the 8 cents a little bit, but we're really we worked with Joris. The last time we worked with them, it's been a while. They built the math science building at the high school. Did a great job there. They have great reputation in checking references with other school districts, and so I feel very comfortable in recommending them to as a construction manager at risk for this project, and be glad to answer any questions you have on that.
Do I have any questions?
I recommend board approval of Joris General Contractors as construction manager at risk for the additions and renovations planned for Salado Intermediate School, Harmony Elementary School, Pecan Valley Elementary School, and Sinclair Elementary School.
All right, we have a recommendation from the superintendent to accept the proposal from Joris for construction manager at risk services. Chair will entertain a motion. We have a motion by Mr. Moki. Is there a second? We have a second by Ms. Barrientos. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Item G, 2-year extension of depository contract.
Yes, sir. Ms. Burns, listen carefully. I'm going to give it a shot. So trustees, it's time for us to renew with our depository. Prior to entering the process, after doing a little bit of research, we figured out that the Texas Education Code, Chapter 45, Subchapter G, speaks to school district depositories, and it enables a school district to extend a 2-year term, an additional 2-year term with a depository if a couple of conditions are met. The first of which is we couldn't have filed an extension in the previous 2 bienniums. And in addition to that, that the bank, depository, and the district agree to extend the current contract with no changes. Meaning, basically, that the terms and conditions for those services, along with the rates that we previously agreed to back in May of 2015, stand going forward. Staff is very pleased with Wells Fargo and their services, and therefore, unless I missed something, Miss Judy? I have it correct, thank you. Therefore, I recommend board approval of a 2-year depository contract extension with Wells Fargo Bank to August 31st, 2019.
I have a recommendation from the superintendent to extend our depository contract with Wells Fargo Bank. Chair will entertain a motion. We have a motion by Ms. Brazil to accept the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a second? We have a second by Ms. Barrientos. Any questions? Not? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda. Does any board member wish to have an item pulled from the consent agenda? If not, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. We have a motion by Ms. Barrientos. Is there a second? We have a second by Ms. Brazil. The consent agenda is approved via unanimous consent. All right. Before we adjourn, do you have anything for us?
No, sir.
Mr. Toscano?
No, sir.
Anyone else? No. Everybody be safe during Fiesta. Please, take sunscreen with you to the parade. All right. With that, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn. We have a motion by Mr. Mulkey. Is there a second? We have a second by Ms. Brazil. We are adjourned via unanimous consent. Thank you very much.